News and Talk 1380 WAOK, an Odyssey station.
Welcome back to the Mental Space with Sean Garvey, right here on News and Talk 1380 WAOK, WAOK.com, and on the Odyssey app, News and Talk 1380 WAOK. And don't forget to tell your smart speaker to play News and Talk 1380 WAOK. This is the show in which we talk about all things considered mental health in our community. And please be advised, this is a pre-taped interview, so please hold all phone calls. All right, Sean Garvey in the studio with some special guests. Ladies and gentlemen, this event is going on right now as we speak, and it's the TRTA conference happening in Atlanta. And you might be asking yourself, well, what is TRTA conference? It is designed to have healthy discussions surrounding mental health, mental illness, and so much more pertaining to trauma, relationships, teen, adolescence, and anxiety. And we have the facilitators in the studio to talk more about this important conference. Joining with us here on the Mental Space is one of the facilitators, and she is also a licensed therapist. Gloria in the studio. Gloria, as well as Ashley, Aaron, and Erica, all four of you are licensed therapists. Welcome to the Mental Space, ladies.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Happy to be here.
We always love talking about therapy. And it's very important that we keep the awareness going as far as mental health is concerned. But I'm ready to get right into the conversation. The TRTA conference is already happening right now. It kicked off on April 8th of this year, April 8th. And Gloria, thank you so much for helping me put this interview together, including DJ Sturgis over at our sister station V103. And let's talk about it. Well, let's get some background on all four of you all. Licensed therapists, of course, and all four of you are the facilitators for this event, this conference right here. So let's start with you, Gloria. Give us your background.
So my name is Gloria Kalanko, licensed psychotherapist here in the state of Georgia. I had been in the field for a little bit over 11 years. Super excited to continue to be of support to my community. My specialty is our teens and adolescents, spending more time with them. I do provide support to everyone, but I do specialize with the teens and youth, making sure that they're able to address whatever concerns that they're dealing with right now so that they can lead a healthier lifestyle to become great adults in the community, aka known as the Tin Whisperer. So yeah, I am happy and excited to be here.
It's always important to work with kids and to talk to kids because it starts with the youth. It starts with the kids. They are the foundation. So I'm glad you spoke on that. Let's take it over to Erica. Erica, give us your background.
All right, my name is Erica Utley. I'm a licensed therapist here in the state of Georgia. I am not only a licensed therapist, but an author, but more than anything, just a human being. You know, we have these credentials and all these letters behind our names, but at the end of the day, we're just human, and we're here to assist other people to really come into some healing that's needed. I am a trauma-focused therapist, which means my clients and I will take a deep dive into the past. We don't stay there because we don't have to live there, but we must visit to make sure that healing has taken place in the places that it needed to take place in. As far as with our conference, I have been facilitating as far as trauma, and I'm also known as a trauma queen. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Trauma queen.
Trauma queen, that's right. Not drama queen, but trauma queen.
Okay. Okay.
Let's be clear.
I'm glad that you cleared that up. All right, and also joining with us as part of the TRTA conference, which stands for, by the way, the Real Therapists of Atlanta. We're going to dive into that in just a few moments. We also have Ashley, by the way. Ashley, one of the facilitators and also a licensed therapist. Go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about yourself and your background.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Nicole Drake. I am a licensed professional counselor in the state of Georgia. I am one of your facilitators for the TRTA conference, specializing in anxiety. So I come from a place of people knowing me to be Sister Cool, Calm, Collected. I definitely take a slowdown with my clients because anxiety can be such a beast of hype. So I work very heavy with the clients to actually go into reality to focus on where the core of the anxiety is coming from. And before they know it, they're like, I couldn't believe it worked. It's going to work because we're consistent. So just really ready to help the community and start the conference and let everybody know what we're about. So
All right.
you.
Yeah, consistency is the key. All right. Last but not least, Aaron.
Whoop, whoop. So I am Erin House, a licensed therapist here in Georgia. I've been doing this for about 12 years, and I am what we call the love doctor. I work with all people and all populations, but my specialty is family and relationships, helping people improve their communication, strengthen their connections, and just learning ways to resolve conflict. As we all know, we all grew up in families, and so families can be dysfunctional. So my big focus with my clients is just kind of scaling back and figuring out where the disconnects come from, where the conflict arises from, and then moving from there to discuss those things in a healthy manner.
You talk about family just a few moments ago, and I tell people every family is not like the Brady Bunch.
Right.
It's not like the Cosby
Most of
Show.
them aren't.
There are families out there that got issues.
Right.
Yes.
They got paid to
Absolutely.
look like they didn't have issues.
Right. That part. So, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so for my part, I'll be facilitating the relationships part of the conference. And like I just stated, we'll just be focusing on healthy ways to communicate and strengthening our connections.
So I'm going to go around the table and ask you guys individually, because I like to ask all of my guests this question when they come into the studio, even though you are licensed therapists. How is your mental health? Starting with you, Gloria.
That's definitely a great question. But I would definitely say that I am in a good space with my mental health. I incorporate things to make sure that I'm okay. Knowing the fact that we are having to deal with clients on a day-to-day basis, it's definitely recommended that we actually have our own therapist on deck so that we can also be able to release and take care of us. But also having healthy boundaries for myself and also getting in some self-care. So I would say my mental health is definitely in a great space because I've incorporated all of those things. So.
All right. Okay. What about you, Erica? How is your mental health?
Oh, goodness. If I can be honest, my mental health is, it can be up and down. We have different seasons of life. And one thing that I think is very important for people to understand that is, though we are therapists, that does not make us exempt from having the human experience. So, you know, for the most part, I'm okay, but I definitely have my days where it's like, do I have to see some clients? You know, do I have to put my stuff to the side and figure out how to be there for them? But it's doable because we are gifted to do this. Like, we have the skill set, but we actually are gifted to do it. And so just to answer your question, I would say that I'm pretty stable today.
Oh, okay.
Today.
Well, thank you for giving us the heads up.
Let me just add this. I am a therapist that has a therapist.
Yes.
When I first started going, I was like, I'm not going. I know what to do. I got the theories down. And when I actually did go and sit on her couch, it was like, you need help too. You don't have all the answers.
Yeah.
So I share that to say that, once again, we are, in fact, all human. And one thing about the Real Therapists of Atlanta is that we are relatable to our clients. So there's not a big me, little you. We're all in this together.
And you spoke moments ago about we're human, and I'm glad you said that, because I think all of us in this room have our moments. We have our moments and our episodes. Some you're not going to see on the Real Therapists of Atlanta show.
Right.
Speaking of which, the Real Therapists of Atlanta are in the studio. Once again, this is a pre-tape interview. No phone calls, just listen. We will be right back, because when we come back from the break, I'm going to ask you, Ashley and Aaron, how is your mental health? And we're going to talk more about the conference that is happening right now, the TRTA conference going down in the ATL. This is the Mental Space with Sean Garvey right here on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. It's the Mental Space with Sean Garvey right here on News Talk 1380 WAOK. If you're just now joining with me, we are talking to the real therapist of Atlanta, not the fake therapist of Atlanta, but the real therapist of Atlanta. Joining with us is Gloria, Aaron, Erica, and Ashley. All four are trained, licensed therapists and facilitators for this event that is happening right now called the TRTA, the Real Therapists of Atlanta Conference, as they do a 4-week virtual session on trauma, relationships, teen, adolescence, and anxiety. Now, before the break, I was asking both Gloria and Erica how their mental health is doing. Now, I'm going to go over to you other two ladies, Ashley and Aaron. With you, Ashley, how is your mental health doing?
It is in a place where we work on her every day, all day. That is something I definitely do not take lightly. And being in a space to be so trusted to instruct other people on their mental health, I have to definitely make sure that I do my due diligence with my mental health. So with that being said, a big part of the word in our titles is real. Mm-hmm. And I take so much pride in that when I do have clients, because I want them to know that I'm a real person. I'm a real chick out here in the world too, trying to figure things out. So I like to somewhat erase that line drawn in the sand, which is a lot of how people's perspectives used to be about therapists back in the day. That therapist that was old school, tell me how you feel. How'd that work for you? I'm not that. Neither of the ladies at this table are like that. So I tell clients all the time, in between my sessions, I'm working on my mental health. I'm playing my sound bathing music. I'm smelling my essential oils. Okay. I have a script of my own affirmations that are going in my head nonstop. So seeking peace for me all day, every day is absolutely priority, because one of the things that I share with my clients is my emotional burnout happened so fast because I'm such a person in a place to get downloaded on, which I fully accept that responsibility. But because I know my emotional burnout goes super fast, I have to pay myself back, repair myself, heal, and move forward. So the mental health gets worked on all day, every day, and it becomes a part of me. It's not just when in crises, it's through me all the time. It's just automatic.
Yeah. Self-awareness and knowing yourself is also key to your mental health journey. And Erica, what about you? How is your mental health?
Erin. So I piggyback off of what Ashley, I call her Drake, what Drake just shared. It's a daily task. Takes pouring into daily, just like eating, just like people who pray every day, people who make sure they exercise every day. Tending to my mental health is a daily thing. Some days, like Erica said, I'm like, whew, I need to isolate. I need some time to myself. And other days, I'm like, okay, I'm good. But we are human. We are real. And so the big part for me is making sure I take my toolbox with me everywhere I go, whether that's making sure I'm doing my affirmations, or when I get home, lighting some candles, or taking a bath, or making sure I'm exercising, because that's something that releases endorphins. And so I'm making sure I have my toolbox packed every day, because it's an everyday kind of thing we have to tend to.
Yeah. Now, the Real Therapists of Atlanta, TRTA, I'm going to go over to you, Gloria. How did you coin that, the Real Therapists of Atlanta? and what makes you or your team differ from all of the therapists, whether it's here in Atlanta or outside of Atlanta? Because when I think of the Real Therapists of Atlanta, it makes me think that you all are actually the real deal. Y'all give y'all clients the honest and transparent truth about themselves in their journey. So what separates you all from the other therapists?
And you nailed it on the head. Like we give the real. Like that's who we are. We are real, and we're real with our clients. So we were sitting and we were talking, and I'm gonna pass the baton to Erica in just a second, because first of all, we're friends. We started off at a facility together, working together at that will remain nameless, but we started off at a hospital together, working together, and we developed this friendship where we actually supported each other through our process while we were at the hospital, while we worked together. There were moments that we were overwhelmed by, our day, and we kind of tapped into each other, and from then we formed our friendship. But in real life, we also support one another outside of the therapy mindset. And so having that realness with each other, to be able to be transparent with each other, and having the realness to be transparent, one, with our clients, but also letting them know that it's okay to be real. This is a judgment-free zone. So that realness, we really echo that and continue to push that, because we know we're human, and we know that other people are human, and there is no room for judgment in that. So I'm going to pass it to Erica so she can expound a little bit more on our title.
Expound on that. Erica looking at me like, how can I tap that? I mean, how can I come behind that one?
I mean, you pretty much covered it. I think ultimately, if I do have to add to it, we wanted to create something that people could come to and get like a whole bundle package, right? So with us, you're getting trauma. We're addressing trauma. We are addressing relationships. We're addressing if you have teens and or adolescents, how to relate to them. And one big thing, of course, is anxiety. So we wanted to create something where people don't have an excuse not to address all components of their mental health. Once again, we are real people. I think that's what really sets us apart, honestly, because as we stated, like, we're therapists, but we still got issues. Right. When you think about the history of therapists, you have this idea that it's this lady or this man with some glasses on, looking over the glasses and looking at you and taking notes and not saying anything back, but we talk back. And it's not necessarily a thing of us giving advice. A dope therapist or a good therapist doesn't give advice. Yeah. We simply hold up a mirror to your face and challenge your perspective. So I think that's what makes us a little different. Yeah. And we got the skill set. Yeah. I mean, we just do. It is what it is.
Have you all ever had clients that come up to you and say, well, I tried the therapy out and it didn't work, or the person or the therapist that I spoke to really didn't do anything for me? Like, what was that conversation like? Just any of you all?
To definitely allow them to know that one size doesn't fit all. So there are going to be some moments where, just like we're going to find the perfect PCP, where we're going to find the perfect dermatologist, you might not get the one that fits you the first 3 times, the first 5 times. But because there's an issue that's going on and it's important to you as a person, you're not going to stop until you find it. So you are that driver to make sure that you are matched with the person that can get you, that can hold that mirror, who you respect and they respect you. So clients come a dime a dozen saying things that sound very outrageous when they get to us sometimes about how they've been led under somebody's clinical guidance. But we definitely do our best to assure them that that's not what you're going to get here. You are in safe hands here. It's warm, non-judgmental, and we're definitely going to do the work. So if they come with the level of accountability at the door, we're Gucci.
Right.
Yeah.
And the thing about that is, as Ashley just stated, there's no one size fit all, and we are all tasked and we are all talented in our field. Definitely, we bring a lot to the table. But one thing that we've recognized within each other is we're able to identify, okay, this probably will be a better therapist for you because of our specialty. So we are able to navigate that. So if somebody comes to I'll even use Drake, because she referred some teens to me, as well as Erica referred some teens to me. We understand where we will be more of useful, and if somebody comes to me and they're more so focused on dealing with stuff that's happened in the past, I'm sending them straight to Erica. And if it's something they're dealing with anxiety, Drake, are you accepting any clients? I got a client coming to you. Aaron, this is a couple. I'm not, listen, I have no room in my space right now. Are you accepting any clients? So we use the resources that we have within ourselves to make sure that if we get a client that feels like, okay, this is not a good fit, we're able to refer you to somebody else that can better serve your needs. So no one size fits all, definitely.
And on top of that, with that non-judgmental space that we create, we allow our clients to give us feedback. So I think a big part of what we learn, counseling 101 is like there's not a big space for clients to express like, hey, this isn't working for me. I've researched this. Can we try this? Can we discuss this? And we all four of us create a space where we collaborate. Our clients are the experts on their lives. We're just holding up the mirror. So I think that's another thing that sets us apart is that it's a back and forth. We're not just trying to give skills and tools. We're creating a space where they can come and say, hey, I really like you, but can we try this? Can we do this? Can we meet more often? Can we meet less often? The client is in the driver's seat.
All right. When we come back, I want to talk more about the clients that you serve. I have a couple of questions. If you're just tuning in to The Mental Space with Sean Garvey, I am talking to the Real Therapist of Atlanta, and we're going to talk more about their conference that is already happening right now between April 8th and April 29th. So stay tuned. We got more on the way next. It's Sean Garvey, The Mental Space. And once again, this is a pre-tape interview, so please hold all phone calls. This is News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Welcome back to The Mental Space with Sean Garvey on News and Talk 1380 WAOK, WAOK.com, and on your Odyssey app, News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Want to remind you all that this is a pre-taped interview / conversation, so please hold all phone calls. And I want to highly encourage you, as you are listening to The Mental Space, in which we talk about all things considered mental health in our community, to please dial 988. If you or someone you know is facing a mental health crisis, please dial the 3-digit number 988. And there are a couple of other telephone numbers to share with you all. There is the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline, and that telephone number is 1-800-950-6264. That's 1-800-950-6264 for the National Alliance on Mental Illness Helpline. You can also text NAMI, that's NAMI, to 741-741. And there is another telephone number if you or someone you know is having thoughts about suicide. There is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. That's 1-800-273-8255, or you can text strength to the crisis text line at 741-741, or go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. We are talking to a special panel of ladies in the studio, licensed therapists from the Real Therapists of Atlanta. I was about to say the reality show, the TV show, but you all are the Real Therapists of Atlanta, and you all have a conference that's happening right now between April 8th through the 29th of this month. All of you are facilitators. We're definitely going to talk more about the conference coming up, 4-week virtual sessions with licensed therapists to walk you through practical strategies to address trauma, relationships, teen, adolescence, and anxiety. I'm also joined by Gloria, Ashley, Aaron, and Erica in the studio to talk about all things therapy and the conference coming up. As far as clients are concerned, we spoke about clients a few moments ago before the break. The type of clients that you all have, what is the demo do you all serve? Because with you all being all women, do you all only serve women, female clients, and
serve everybody?
Or everybody? Okay, talk about that.
Males and females. Reality is, we have this stigma in our community that men are supposed to be so put together. They're not supposed to seek therapy. They're supposed to be the strong ones. But the reality is, men are just as human as women. They go through the same thing that women go through. And unfortunately, because of this thing that has been put out where men feel like they cannot communicate, they end up internalizing so much. And eventually, because they have no outlet or feel like they have no outlet, there's that explosion that comes. And then they're looking at men like, oh, something is wrong with him. But no, reality is you didn't give him the space
the safe space for him to actually talk about what's going on with him. You made it seem like he could not talk about it. So we serve everybody, literally anybody that walks through the doors. We don't care if you're male, female, whatever. It doesn't matter. We are here to serve and support you. And if we are not a best match for you, we will definitely get you connected to who is a best match for you.
Hey, we have a Black men health, mental health panel coming up.
Okay.
On the mental space, so yeah, you all stay tuned for that. I'm definitely looking forward to that.
Dope.
And as far as age range, do you all cater to kids or just adults or both?
We got of course, our teen child specialist, but we all work with all ages. I know E will always joke like, don't.
Listen, and one thing, and Drake, I'm adults on up.
Yeah, I am too.
So I'm not. Ashley's not school age.
Yeah. So here's the thing with that. It's not that because we started off with children.
Yeah.
And so we love the kids, but I think for me personally, I realized that when working with children, you have to work with the parent as well. You could do all this work with the child, and then when they go home, if the parent is not during their healing journey as well, the work that we're doing as the therapist becomes undone. So for me, it just wasn't my ministry anymore. But I love kids. They're our future, of course. But like we said, we do have Gloria and we have Aaron and Drake and I. Well, Ashley and I just, we love the kids, but
love the kids. We've definitely worked with the kids, and for me personally, when I had kids myself, that was something that was a huge part of realizing I might not be in a space to do therapy with children at work and then come home to my kids and do work and be wearing a million hats for them. And it was just my time to exit. So
you find it much more easier to cater or to help adults versus kids. Not saying that kids don't need help, of course, but you just find in your life, in your career at this moment, that adults are less of a challenge.
For me personally, I definitely will say that's accurate. I worked with kids for years. Like we said, we all started with kids when we were meeting at the facility that we worked at years ago. However, we were bomb at it. We just got to particular points in our life to figure out where we really wanted to shine in our individual practices. Yeah. And I prefer to shine with my children as mommy and shine with my adult age clients on up at work.
That's good.
The Real Therapist of Atlanta in the studio, hosting a 4-week virtual sessions with professional licensed therapists to walk you through practical strategies to address trauma, relationships, teens, adolescents, and anxiety as well. Now, let's talk about the April 8th event. It kicked things off on April 8th. Can you give us a recap, Gloria? Because April 8th, which is the start date for the Real Therapists of Atlanta conference, what was that like? From my understanding, it was via Zoom conference, but just to give us a recap of week one. Actually, it dealt with trauma. I'm looking at my information in front of me right now, so this question belongs to you, Erica. Give us a recap of what week one looked like.
Okay. It was absolutely amazing. I think that to start off with trauma was really dope, because before we can really get into these other dynamics that we're talking about as far as relationships, how we deal with our children or work with our children and anxiety, you got to deal with the things that are at the root. So it was dope, and I have to be honest, it's not easy to go back and have to, kind of rehash some things, but it doesn't have to be looked at in a bad way. Because once you can actually get to the root of it, pull some stuff up, figure out what needs to stay, what needs to go, and then kind of reframe some stuff, it sets the stage for everything else. So it was definitely great. It was a great turnout, most definitely.
Yeah, every Saturday, 12 p.m. at noon, you all have a virtual conference to discuss all those areas as it pertains to mental health. Why do you feel like it was very important to put together a conference like this on mental health?
Ooh, let's just go ahead and say because we haven't seen it. So we like to think outside the box as a collective. We like to offer the community something that we feel like is a unicorn. So we have 4 different specialties here, 4 different flavors, and we all are allowing people to see who we are, but have fun in learning about their mental health space as well. One of the things that Aaron said earlier pretty much was we take that line in the sand away and let them know we're flexible. So you guys can talk back to us. We really do operate in that sense of closed mouths don't get fed over here. So you definitely are the driver of your therapy. And we wanted that to be something that is on the forefront of who we are and why that's different with the 4 of us. Because at the base of us is true friendship and true sisterhood too. So we lean on each other heavily. But we just wanted to come to the community and offer them something that we haven't seen before that we felt like would be a prize.
Absolutely. And like she said, there's nothing like it. And it's shocking because who don't have some stuff from their childhood that they need to deal with? Who can't relate to having issues in your relationship with your parents or your spouse, or you trying to get a significant other to have some issues, so who can't relate to trying to connect with the next generation? Even if you don't have kids, you're a teacher or your coach or you involved in your children's ministry, like we all are connected to the next generation. And then who can't relate to anxiety, worrying, fear? So there's nothing like it, and there's a huge need for it.
You got time to hang out with us some more as we tackle these 4 areas of mental health. Because I want to come back from the break. We are up against a break, but when we come back from the break, let's talk about trauma. That is the buzzword that is brought up in a lot of conversations, especially in relationships. And so I want to unpack that when we come back from the break, because I think that that's an important piece when it comes to mental illness and all the other issues that come along with that. We have Gloria, Ashley, Aaron, and Erica, the Real Therapists of Atlanta TRTA conference happening right now until the 29th of April. Stay tuned. We got more with them on the Mental Space with Sean Garvey right here on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. This is the Mental Space with Sean Garvey on News and Talk 1380 WAOK, online WAOK.com, as well as on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram at 1380 WAOK, the voice of the community. And you can follow me everywhere on social media at Sean Garvey ATL on Instagram and on Twitter. If you are tuning in late to the Mental Space, in which we talk about all things considered mental health in our community, don't worry, folks. You will have an opportunity to go back to the Rewind feature on the Odyssey app and listen back to some of the highlights of tonight's show as we sit down and talk to the Real Therapists of Atlanta. They are currently having a conference every Saturday at 12 p.m. It is the Real Therapists of Atlanta conference going on between now and the 29th of April. Gloria, Ashley, Aaron, and Erica, all professional licensed therapists practicing in different areas of mental health in the studio. Erica on trauma, Aaron on relationships, Gloria on teens and adolescents, and anxiety for Ashley, licensed therapist in the studio. Let's talk about trauma. Let's talk about trauma, ladies. Of course, before the break, we talked a little bit about what the conference is and why it was important to have this conference happening here in Atlanta, which, by the way, for those that may not know or tuned in to the mental space late. It's a conference where you all review the fundamentals and the foundations of navigating unresolved trauma, building and maintaining healthy relationships, relating to the youth and teens in your life, and managing anxiety to create a more balanced life. Let's start with trauma. Before the break, I said that trauma tends to be the key word brought up in a lot of conversations, especially in relationships and dating, and even in our personal lives, dealing with family, even in our work lives, dealing with coworkers, and all the trauma that comes along with it. To you, Erica, as a trauma focused and trauma queen, the trauma queen, Erica, what does trauma look like to you?
Okay. So first I want to define it. It's basically, if we're just going to put it in just some straightforward words, a highly disturbing event that has come in and probably has disrupted your life, whether you realize it or not at that particular time. There's a misconception that trauma is, it has to be these events where there's this war, maybe with the military or a natural disaster. But sometimes trauma could be a war that was within your own home growing up. So it is definitely a thing. A lot of us are walking around with unresolved trauma, and it's showing up in our relationships. It's showing up in our finances. It's showing up in our physical health as well. Trauma, if not addressed, can live in the body. It definitely can live in the body. Just from my personal experience, there have been times where it's like, oh my goodness, my whole body is in pain. But my body is remembering some traumas that maybe I need to still address that have gotten triggered. So it's definitely a huge thing, and that's why we wanted to start off our conference with that topic, which I want to share about it.
I mean, you said it right there. And the reason why I say the word trauma is brought up in a lot of conversations, because when you're conversing with people, you may say something that can trigger somebody, and you may not come into the conversation or in the dialogue with that person thinking that I'm going to purposely say this to this person. You just don't know. You know what they say, you just don't know what a person is going through, right? And if you say the wrong thing, it can offset that person to be triggered, and it may not go very, very well after that conversation. With you in the profession that you are in as a trauma-focused therapist, what do you say to people that have conversations with other people about trauma? So like I just said, you can be triggered by something that a person says, or you can take your anger out on that individual just because you haven't dealt with your own trauma. Let's say what do you say to people, especially people that are going to be joining the conference, if they haven't already? What do you say to those people that are still facing that type of trauma?
Okay. I think for one, it's very important for people to understand how their unresolved trauma spills over into other people. A lot of times, we may be in a relationship and we think that it's something that we're doing because our partner is consistently going off on us, or our partner is, they're being isolative in nature, and it's like, well, what did I do wrong? And the reality of it is that your partner or this family member or friend probably has some unresolved trauma, which has absolutely nothing to do with you. So I think it is important for people that are dealing with unresolved trauma to begin to have conversations with the people around them and let them know, hey, it's not you, it's me, and begin to actively seek the therapy that they need to work through it. Trauma is real. It's not, people say things like, oh my gosh, this was traumatic, but no, and they kind of make it just be something, they just say it loosely. But it's real. It can infect and affect your entire existence and trickle down to your children. Some of us are carrying traumas that don't even belong to us. Intergenerational trauma is real. So that's why it's so important to begin to recognize, wait, something's not quite right. I'm having flashbacks from my childhood just out the blue. I can't necessarily be intimate with my partner because I've experienced some type of trauma as it relates to some abuse in my past. Like, you got to start being honest and get the help that you need.
Do you think trauma is more prevalent in the black community than any other race outside of the black community?
Yeah, okay.
No, see.
Well,
Trauma queen.
Yeah, I don't know. You know, I don't know if I don't really know how to answer that. I will say this though. I will say, considering what our history has been, even when we go back to the times of slavery and things of that nature, it's definitely embedded into our DNA. But that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. But I do believe that we as African Americans, we truly experienced some traumas that I feel like maybe were covered up. And it's like, no, that wasn't traumatic. But in actuality, it was. And it still is affecting us.
Do any of you all want to weigh in on that? I mean, I know you all specialize in different areas of mental health, but do you all want to?
I absolutely agree with what Erica said. I think it's hard to quantify it and say more prevalent. I think that the black community has an extra layer. I think people who are repressed have an extra layer of trauma added on to other events that are traumatic for people. You know what I mean? So witnessing acts of violence against people that look like you, carrying in our DNA our ancestors' trauma and terrible circumstances. Like, we have a layer of that maybe other people don't.
I'm gonna stay with you, Aaron, when we come back from the break, because I know you do relationships. That's week 2, of course, a part of the conference. But before we go to break, trauma, can any of you all maybe share a testimonial story to our listeners of whatever type of trauma you face and how you overcame it?
Yeah. So this is Ashley Drake. Hello, all. Thank you for listening. One of the earliest, maybe biggest traumatic events in my life was I was abandoned at the age of 5. So my mom and my dad left me at a family member's house, and they did not come back to get me. So at that point in time, it was all hands on deck. It was the village. I was definitely what they say, it takes a village to raise a child. So the aunts, the uncles, the cousins, they were all people who I definitely had to learn to lean on. But I often say that I had the best of both worlds too. That was something that I didn't know was a traumatic event until I was a part of a master's program learning to counsel other people. Because going through a counseling program, we are picked apart. And we are picked apart on purpose to be able to understand our particular traumas and our particular issues that we have went through that have been suppressed. So we have to be able to put our stuff on the forefront to heal it, process it, before we are allowed to lead and guide anybody in a clinical sense. But that was something that ended up coming up in relationships, being abandoned, ended up coming up in, platonic and intimate relationships, I'll say, ended up being something where I had to learn how my attachment style was, defining that, what it meant for me to attach to myself, what kind of life that I want to take hold of, and what kind of life that I want to make sure my children would not live and would benefit from when I gathered all my things together to go through and learn from my own trauma.
Let's talk a little bit about that offline, because that's for another show as well. But let's unpack that. And in a few moments when we come back from break, I'm going to talk to Aaron about week 2 of relationships for the TRTA conference right here on the Mental Space with Sean Garvey, News and Talk 1380 WAOK. The Mental Space, Sean Garvey, News and Talk 1380, WAOK, WAOK.com, and on the Odyssey app, News and Talk 1380, WAOK. Sean Garvey still in the studio with the TRTA crew. The Real Therapists of Atlanta conference is happening right now. A Saturday event every Saturday throughout the month of April. You and others will get a chance to be a part of the conference as we talk to special licensed therapists, Gloria, Ashley, Aaron, and Erica, dealing and going over all areas of mental health, from trauma, relationships, teens, adolescents, and anxiety. We had to take a break because we had to unpack what you mentioned earlier, Ashley, about the trauma that you went through and how you overcame it. So I just felt like, your story that you shared with our listeners a few moments ago was very touching, and it's just a constant reminder that we all have to keep on with the ongoing conversation surrounding mental health. And I'm glad that you all are doing this conference. If you have not attended, of course, we got them in the studio to talk more about it. The Real Therapists of Atlanta, please hold all phone calls. This is a pre-tape interview. Now let's talk about week 2, relationships. Aaron. Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we got through talking about trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But yes, let's talk about building and maintaining healthy relationships. How do we do that as everyday people?
so first key is self-awareness. So I love that my part was right after the trauma class, because discussing the importance of realizing what the trauma is and how to address unresolved trauma increases our self-awareness. And when we're self-aware, when we know our attachment styles, I'm big on knowing your attachment style. So when we know, okay, I'm avoidant because I went through this when I was a child. It's hard for me to be vulnerable. It's hard for me to have space. It's hard for me to discuss emotional things because I experienced this. That's the first step to being able to overcome it, and then building the blocks with whoever you're building a relationship with, whether it's a partner and you're on a date, and like you talked about, getting triggered, you're able to just say like, hey, when you make those kind of statements, I'm triggered. These have been my experiences. And by doing that, you're building a connection with that person.
Yeah.
You're allowing that person to be there for you, to see a part of you. And then you're also being honest and allowing them to make a decision if this is the kind of connection they don't want. And so the first piece is self-awareness. We also discuss communication, ways that we communicate. I know growing up, we always learned, like, it's not what you say, but how you say it.
Yeah.
But that's so key to being able to build upon a connection with people. Your children, like, I know Glow talks about this a lot. How we talk to our kids. Like, how do we expect our kids to be in a vulnerable relationship with us when we don't open the door to them, when we're just always griping or fussing or only wanting to talk about the things that need to get done? So we talk a lot about how to open the door of having open communication, active listening, not just telling the person what you need, but listening to what they need. So those are the foundations that we discussed.
Yes, listening to understand, not being so quick to respond. I've had so many conversations with people, and when you have conversations with people, I definitely agree. It's not what you say, it's how you say it, but you can't even get past the first sentence. Yeah, you get that direct response like, no. But, but do you really think, though, as a licensed therapist, Aaron, do you really think that communication is the key nowadays to mental health? Because think about it, we live in this social media era now.
Yeah.
And people use social media to communicate, people texting to communicate, which I think, in my personal opinion, it does more harm than good. But let's say do you really think communication is really the key in this age?
And a big part of what we discussed too is how to connect and communicate in this age, because like you said, people are meeting on social media, and not just romantically. Like, I have clients who are on social media and some of the apps to get best friends or to connect with people. People are yearning to connect. And post-COVID world, the opportunities to connect don't seem to be presenting themselves to a lot of people, or a lot of people aren't confident in how to connect. So communication is key, and I don't mean just verbal communication, but the act of being present when someone's talking to you. That's a communication skill. The act of relaying to someone, hey, I'm listening to you, I'm making eye contact with you, sharing what they just shared with you, reflecting back what we all do all the time, reflecting back what someone just said to us. That's a communication skill. And what that does is it just continues to build the bricks of connection. You can't be connected if you feel like you don't know the person. And how do you get to know somebody? Communicating with them, spending time with them.
I tell people I do my best communication in person. If not in person, over the phone. Because I remember a time where we didn't have social media. I mean, you all, of course, we didn't have social media. We, you know. I mean, hey, I'm 39. So I remember that time where social media wasn't the thing. It didn't exist. And your only means of communicating to people was either writing them a letter, putting it in a postcard, or calling them on the phone. But like nowadays, when you put stuff out there on social media, right, and that can also be a hub for mental illness and mental health issues and stuff. You know, sometimes communication can be misconstrued, take things out of context by what you say and stuff, and next thing you know, you find yourself getting into an argument, debate, or fight, even a verbal fight with people, and you're no longer friends with them anymore because of a disagreement.
But you know, a key piece of communication across all boards, whether it's social media, in person, over the phone, is being clear. So that's a big part that I try to work with clients on, is because they'll come in and be like, yeah, and I said this and said that. And as they're sharing the story, I'm like, I don't even understand what you're saying. So a big part is being clear and concise. And yeah, people may disagree, or it may provoke some type of reaction, but if you're clear and concise and you draw that line in the sand, hey, this is the boundary, then you don't get pulled into that stuff as much. And the last piece I'm gonna say about social media, because I'm like you, I'm in my mid to late 30s, so I understand, but I think it's important. I know I challenge myself. I have kids, and I want to understand the world they live in. So I would say to parents or people who take care of teenagers, like, understand social media. Let's not, I know our age, we have a bad habit of like being like, y'all can't connect over social media, but that's their world, and that's how they are perceiving connection. So by us understanding it, we're able to connect to them a little better too.
Yeah. Well, you can hear more of what Erin has to say on this particular part of mental health relationships is this Saturday at 12 p.m. So you get an opportunity to check out week 2 of the TRTA conference. All right, so stay tuned. We got more with the ladies of the Real Therapists of Atlanta. When we come back, it's Gloria's time to talk about teens and adolescents. I mean, that's a great segue, by the way, too. You know, we just got through talking about teens and communication. Now we definitely going to talk about teens and children facing different forms of mental health, in which Gloria specializes in. So don't go anywhere. We got more coming up on The Mental Space with Sean Garvey, News and Talk 1380 WAOK. It's The Mental Space with Sean Garvey, News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Please hold all phone calls. This is a pre-tape interview / conversation. We are still joined by the TRTA conference, having a very important, enlightening conversation on mental health. The Real Therapists of Atlanta still hanging out with Sean Garvey, Gloria, Ashley, Erin, and Erica as we talk about the conference that is happening right now. Week 1 just passed on trauma. We're getting ready to head into week 2 of relationships. That is what you are going to get at this weekend's conference. Is going down right now until April 29th. And so let's transition over, Gloria, to week 3, which is coming up. Teens and adolescents. We all been there before. We've all been in our teens. We've all been children. We've all been kids. And we've all dealt with a lot of things in school, from peer pressure to bullying, to even forms of trauma like me and Erica we were talking about earlier, all these different things and stuff. So what can people expect from week 3 of this conference, Gloria?
So from week 3, it's just getting to a space where you're able to have that open dialogue with your teens, your youth, being able to meet them where they are. I know we have this thing that we say, like, we've been there, we've done that, you know, there's nothing new under the sun that you guys are doing that we haven't done. But reality is there's a lot of new things that our kids are having to be faced with. We weren't exposed to the social media thing. Like, we had MySpace, but it wasn't as advanced as it is right now.
Right.
So we're speaking about MySpace, and MySpace wasn't like I said, it's not as advanced as social media is. Sometimes, as you just spoke about bullying, our kids cannot get away from bullying. Usually back in the days, and I say back in the days and I'm laughing right now, but during our time when we were in school, we can leave the bully at school and be done with it and didn't have to deal with the bully at school. But now our kids are having to deal with online bullying. When they leave the school, there's no escape. They're still having to face that. Or they're having to face somebody in the neighborhood coming to their home to try to bully them at their home. Because these days, a lot of kids are not afraid to even come to someone's home. So our kids are having to be faced with so much. And then social media as a whole, like some of the things that are being presented to them on a day-to-day basis, what they're having access to. I was shocked at, you know, some of the things that the kids had to share with me, you know, about what they can access this day and age where we couldn't access those things growing up. And it's really at the click of a finger, like, for them to be able to access it. TV, they're being faced with a lot. It's so much that's being pushed into our media right now that we didn't get exposed to. And a lot of the kids are like, what they're looking for is somebody to hear them, someone to listen, someone to understand them. I know, like I said, parents, there's no book. There's no perfect way to raise a kid. A lot of parents are doing the best that they can, but I would definitely say one of the main things that our kids are asking for is for someone to just listen to them, understand them, and respect them as people who they are as well, and not just look at them as kids and saying, well, they're just kids, so they don't have any real issue. What are you really stressing about? A lot of our kids are like, it's a lot. It's a lot that they're dealing with. They do have things. No, they don't have bills like we as adults do. They don't have those responsibilities, but they're being faced with so much. So the kids are just looking for someone to actually listen to them and hear them out.
But, you know, someone would argue that, well, you have parents. You have parents and you also have guidance counselors in schools. How do they play a role in the children's lives? Or do they even play any type of instrumental role in these children's lives when they are faced with so much stuff? As a kid going to school, or even, you know, going outside and dealing with other different personalities from kids and from people in their peer group. Like, how are they involved in the children's life, if they are even involved?
So let's start with the guidance counselors.
Sure.
Let me just start here and say this. They're limited to what they can do.
Well, I mean, you are the real therapist of Atlanta, so go ahead and keep it real.
Let's start with that. They're limited to what they can do. They have particular areas that they can deal with, and then they have to cut it off at a particular point. So guidance counselors, they're in the schools to be of support, but there's only so much they can go forth with. And also, you have to keep in mind, some of these guidance counselors might have relationships with multiple kids in the building, so they might not have that non-biased approach to things. So a lot of kids will not feel comfortable going to a guidance counselor that might actually have a relationship with the other kid who was Erica and
I'm dealing with issues from Erica bullying me, and the guidance counselor is saying, oh, well, not Erica. I wouldn't believe that Erica would do that. So it's like, where is that space? And then where is that space that I feel like you're not going to share that information that I shared with you with that other kid or with the rest of the teachers or with the rest of the other guidance counselors? So like I said, it's a limited space for them to be able to share, but it's only so much that the guidance counselors can do. Also, we have to think about our parents. Our parents are dealing with a lot. They're faced with a lot on a day-to-day basis. They're having to be responsible for themselves and our little ones. And it's like the parents want to be there. I'm sure a lot of parents are doing their best to be there, but it's only so much they can do too. And it's only so much that the kids are willing to open up to their parents with. And that's where a mediator, a counselor comes into play, where the counselor can serve as that connecting piece, that bridge that brings our parents to our teens, our youth, having everybody to better understand each other. Because a parent can be delivering something and the counselor can say the exact same thing, but because it's being delivered from the counselor, that teen will probably receive it a lot different than from when the parents are saying it. So, and vice versa. Youth might be saying one thing and the parents might not be receiving it, but let a counselor say the exact same thing that youth just said. It sounds like, oh my gosh, that's what I was saying. That's what I was thinking. So that bridge, we serve as that bridge to be able to connect the two pieces, the two avenues. So yeah.
Can you speak from a spirituality standpoint as well too? Because we talked about the parents, we talked about guidance counselors, but what about the church though? I mean, Sundays and even Bible studies. I remember as a kid we had Exodus, we had Sunday school, we had pastors and preachers, youth counselors. Do they play a role at all with our teens and our children's mental health?
I would definitely say the church definitely can play a role, and I would say can play a role for a reason, because sometimes, I mean, this is not a thing that's not a discussion in our community. Church folks can run folks from the church, and that's real. But I say they can play a role if it's a positive effect on the children. Because we don't want anybody that's negatively influencing the children. We don't also want somebody that's discounting, what this child is feeling by simply saying, oh, just pray about it. We can pray about it, but faith without works is dead. So we also have to put in the work. And I personally feel God has placed his counselors here, just like he placed doctors to do what they do in the medical sector. We are placed to be the doctors for mental health, to be able to support you through that. So the faith part, you're praying. I'm with it. We're supposed to do that. But we also have to put in our work. And if we do not put in our work, we can't just say, okay, God, I want to be better. And I'm just sitting here. And the tools are available and you're not tapping into those tools. So I definitely feel like there is church, but it goes together. Therapy and church definitely goes together.
It takes a village to raise a child, right? So this week coming up, the week 3 of the TRTA conference, how are you going to remind people that are going to come to your conference? How are you going to remind them that community and village is what it takes to raise a child these days?
Just like that. Community, definitely.
Yeah.
And I say that to say because I know growing up, back when we were younger, and I keep saying back when because we're looked at as the aunties and uncles now. So back in the days when we were growing up, the neighbor could actually say, hey, you're doing something wrong. And our parents were okay with the parents, the neighbors letting us know, holding us accountable. And I think that's what we need to start looking at more and being more open to. As long as that person is trying to be of support to your child and directing them the right way, I think we should also be open to that, because then kids are not looking like, okay, just because my mom is not around, then I can do all these things. If they know that my mom is okay with the neighbor holding me accountable, I'm not able to do those things that I wouldn't do even when my parents are here, because there are other adults that are holding me accountable as well. So just being open-minded, and then to the neighbors, being also the support where you're not just being there to redirect, but also be there to encourage, because that's the place we kind of fall short. There's always adults there to try to caution, to try to, scold, to try to penalize, but there's the limited support from the person that's pouring into them. So it's twofold. We have to be there to redirect, but we also have to pour and fill their cups back up, because that's a part of loving and caring for our children.
And this is next week 3, as Gloria discusses teens and adolescents and children dealing with different forms of mental health, mental illness, from bullying to peer pressure, all that and more. Of course, this week is week 2, relationships. All right. So before we get up out of here and close out the show, the mental health, the mental space, this has been a very great conversation. You know, we got to close the show out by touching on week 4. Anxiety. Who doesn't have anxiety?
Yeah.
Ashley's going to talk about that and what people can expect from week 4 of the TRTA conference happening right now between April 29th here in the ATL. We have the Real Therapist of Atlanta in the studio, Sean Garvey, the mental space, right here on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. All right, we're in the final stretch of the mental space. Thank you for tuning in. Sean Garvey right here on News and Talk 1380 WAOK. Now I figured it out. TRTA, the acronym for the Real Therapist of Atlanta, as it deals with different areas of mental health, trauma, relationships, teens, and anxiety. I like that. I love that.
It's clever, right?
It is clever. TRTA. Now it doesn't only mean the Real Therapist of Atlanta, but it also stands for those 4 areas of mental health in which you will be a part of the conference. Coming up is week 2 on relationships, and then next week is teens and adolescents. That's week 3, and to end things in the month of April is week 4, anxiety. And Ashley, what can people expect from week 4 on anxiety? A lot of people are dealing with anxiety in the workplace, personal life, everywhere, especially in these days and times of economic crisis, all different kinds of crisis. Talk to us about that area.
Sister Cool, Calm, and Collected is going to get the people cool, calm, and collected. Like, let's just put that on out there. Again, I like to say that anxiety is definitely a beast of hype. And a lot of people slide to that side of thinking that that alternate world is the real world. So with week 4 of anxiety, we will learn to reprogram the brain, reset the expectation, and locate the true balance within. So we can definitely show up authentically, unapologetically. A lot of times when I work with clients, one of the biggest things is I have to ask them, define your anxiety for me. So we're going to be defining what their anxiety can look like. We're going to be making sure that we understand how to set expectations for anxiety. So this is what my anxiety can look like sometimes. However, the expectation to deal with it in real time versus expectation to deal with it behind closed doors, and making sure that we give ourselves that self-care time to utilize those interventions. All of these things definitely have to marry together, because we have to figure out the healthy balance. So the interventions come to play very, very well. And when we're working with somebody with anxiety, the biggest thing there is being consistent and making sure that repetition is a part of that. So repetition is definitely something that I make sure I uphold while I'm putting up that mirror. A lot of times people's mind frames gives them the notion that because I'm thinking this is concrete, this is reality. It is not. So I take them on a very slow pace to move forward so that we can make sure that reality is the world that we want to live in. One of the things that I typically say to clients as well is, who's driving your car? You picked out the car, you paying for the car, you picked out the car insurance, and who driving it? Your anxiety. Your anxiety is the one that's driving your car. You in the passenger seat just losing your mind because you're about to fly over the edge. So in that sense, I always make sure to say that we have to create the pace that we want. When we're talking, create the pace that we want. Just because somebody's in our audience, we think that they're supposed to hear us talk this fast. They're expecting us to talk this way, use these words. And I always tell people, sit back and ride on your confidence. Like, people can definitely take their time with you if you take your time with yourself. Just because other people have expectations does not mean that we are mandated to meet them. We can take that slow down and say, I'm still processing what you said. Give me a second.
Right.
And nobody's going to say, I process faster. Like, I've just never been a part of those conversations. It's just completely unrealistic. But that hype beast is in somebody's mind. And it's telling them, you have to do it this way. You have to say it that way. They're thinking about you this way. They're looking at you this way. So we then take that alternate reality and we spew it to every reality that we're in. And that's not okay. Mm-hmm. So I make sure that they know that's a hotel of favorites where anxiety is. But the hotel of new you, new journey, new memory, that's thrilling. That's the risk that we definitely want to sign up for, to get outside those levels of comfort. Anxiety is going to force you to feel like you don't know yourself and like you're completely threatened in every situation. And that's not the case either. So I work very heavy with my clients to slow them down, help them locate a healthy pace so they ride on their confidence, so they can show up authentically, unapologetically.
You know what that sounds to me? That sounds like accountability. Yeah, which we talk about a lot on the mental space. So week 2 is coming. Week 3 is next week. And then the following week, which would be the last week in April, week 4 on anxiety. No charge to be a part of the conference?
It's definitely a charge.
Yeah.
Oh, there is a charge.
Yeah.
Yes.
So let's be
okay.
clear.
Well. We're not going to mention that on the air,
Right.
of course. But it is still open to the public. It's still open to people of different walks of life, different ages and stuff. Well, what's one thing you want? And I'm gonna go around the room really quick. What's one thing you want people to take away from the conference? Starting with you, Ashley.
One thing that I would want people to take away from this conference is starting your mental health journey does not mean that it ends. This is a lifestyle. This is something that you have to be real with. You have to be accountable to, and you have to commit to this. So we're here to show up for the person, but we won't overwork ourselves if the person doesn't show up. We want to be the facilitator in their life for a certain period of time so they can be who they need to be moving forward.
Okay. All right. Let's say you, Aaron.
One thing I would like people to walk away with is more confidence in how to move throughout life. So we're starting with trauma. So more confidence with dealing with all of that, more confidence in building relationships, more confidence in connecting with youth, and also more confidence in creating that balance for themselves.
All right. Well said. The trauma queen herself. What do you want people to take away from your part and from the conference as a whole?
I think it's just a matter of people not being afraid to deal with their mental health. There is healing on the other side of this, but you got to be honest and be open. And this is a self-investment. So that's what I would encourage people to know, that it's not easy. The work isn't easy, but it's definitely doable. And there's so much more peace and joy on the other side of it.
Last but not least, Gloria.
The one thing I would want people to take away from the conference is that this is a process. Grant yourself grace and allow the process to happen.
Yeah, that's good.
All right. So for more information about this conference and more, what is the website? How can people be a part of it? Where do they need to go to?
It's renovatingmindskalanko.com, but then you go scroll down a little bit after that and you would be able to click on the conference and be able to sign up if you would like to be a part of it. And we would love to have you.
Okay. All right.
Once again, renovatingmindskalanko.com. Scroll down to the booking and you will see the sector for the conference. It's the last icon you'll see on the booking sector.
If you can send me the link, I'm going to post it to our 1380 WAOK community page so that everybody can have a direct link to go there. All right. And anything else coming up in the near future for the Real Therapists of Atlanta? Anything coming up?
We might have some things cooking, but we're not just ready to.
We shared some ideas offline. We did. We shared some ideas. I'm like, The Real Therapist of Atlanta. I'm thinking something pertaining to media, because this is the thing. Here's the thing. You know, you gotta go to where people are. You know, you gotta go to where people are. People are on social media. People are still watching TV and listening to podcasts and audio. So you gotta go to where they are, so that way they can get this information and get this help. Anybody, how can they reach you? Can they follow you individually or as a group?
So my individual handle on Instagram is &_therapy. That is how you will find me. That is the name of my practice, and therapy.
And this is Erin. You can find me at A Mindful House, and house is HOWSE, on Facebook and Instagram. Those are my handles, A Mindful House.
Okay, and with Erica, you can find me on IG and Facebook, Smileology Counseling, SMILEOLOGY Counseling.
And this is Gloria Calanco, Renovating Minds LLC on IG. And you can find me online as well, renovatingmindscalancollc.org. And we thank you and look forward to having you guys at the conference.
All right, well, give it up one more time for the Real Therapist of Atlanta. And we're going to have you come back on the mental space sometime in the month of May to give our audiences and our listeners a recap of everything that took place at the Real Therapist of Atlanta conference, happening right now until April 29th. So make sure you are a part of the conference starting at 12 p.m. All right, so this has been the mental space with Sean Garvey. Thank you so much to everybody a part of the mental space. Thank you to my producer Simone Williams for holding things down with me, as well as my associate producer Michelle Dawes-Burt. And thank you to the WAOK listeners for your support in the mental space. Make sure you follow me at Sean Garvey ATL if you miss any of tonight's highlights of the mental space. And once again, this is a pre-taped conversation. You can go to the Odyssey app and click on rewind, and all of our content will be on SeanGarveyOnline.com very, very soon. All right, don't make room for bad news. Make every day your own good news, and always keep yourself and others in a great mental space. Until the next time, cheers.
News and Talk 1380 WAOK, an Odyssey station.